Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to chat with you guys and gals a little bit about something that not everyone always talks about, but it is something we do need to discuss, and that's this idea that for strength and muscle development, we can't be afraid to use different grips, use different stances. So you'll see me even in this a little bit, rotating through different bars, different grips, different stances, and this can be done with your big movements. It can be done with isolation movements. So let me just some examples. You'll see through here. You'll see me doing a traditional low bar squat with 500, using a buffalo bar instead of a straight bar. I think later in here I do something like a 415 for 5 on a high bar squat with a regular squat bar. So again, same thing, deadlifting, doing a little bit of I think it's like a 5 reps of 550 on a deadlift. But then I throw something like 400 on. Later you'll see me doing a clip of doing rep work with 400 on an axle bar. Okay, so why do we do these different things? And again, same thing you'll notice changing bars for curls, right? You can use straight bars for curls, dumbbells, easy bars. Again, use your different bars, use different stances, use different widths. And the reason I say this is how you shore up weak links. And I know a lot of times when we talk about strength, we get hung up on this specificity, right? You practice the movement you want to get good at, hone it, fine tune it. But here's the thing. People don't think about from that perspective. That only matters on a max, okay? So people get this idea that, oh, you're learning a skill of how to squat. No, you're really not. Like if you can squat 500 pounds, I'm just going to be straight up. No one wants to hear this. Nobody wants to hear this, but it's true. If you squat 500 plus pounds, doing rep work with 400 or 390 has no skill transfer. Ooh, it has no skill transfer to a max. It's not the same exercise. 80% or 70% or 75% of a max doesn't have skill transfer to a max. It's not the same exercise. The movement pattern will be different. The different muscle engagements will be different. In other words, and we know this even on studies on the bench press, you do realize your triceps versus pec ratios do not fire the same at 80% that they do on a max. They do not fire at the same ratio. Same thing with squatting. We even know from EMG data, you take a back squat, right? You put electrodes on to measure the activity in the quads and the glutes and the adductors and everything, and you start getting heavier and heavier. It will not produce the same ratios. Okay, it's not going to produce the same ratios. Your amount of glute versus quad that you use as you get closer to the max changes. Okay, also your bar paths are going to change. It's not going to look identical to your maxes. It's not the same skill. It's not the same technique. There's no such thing as submaximal technique training. And I know people love to push that, but unless it's a high skill exercise, it's not true. These low skill single movements, like a bench press, a deadlift, a squat, these are low skill movements, guys. I'm saying that even as a powerlifter, there's not a massive amount of skill involved other than the setup, right? Learning to get tight, that's it. The techniques themselves, once you're in position, matter less than you think they do. They matter a little bit. But you're not going to go from a 400 to a 500 by technique work. It's absolutely not going to happen. You just have to get bigger. You have to get stronger. That's it. So the skill starts to go out the window, but what does matter? Muscular development, weak links, overuse. Okay. And this is something I get people who are like, why do you change stuff all the time every week? Because I'm 48 and I lift big weights. Let me say that again. I'm 48 years old and I lift big weights. My risk of overuse is pretty high. I mean, if I only could squat 350 pounds, it would be a little bit different. I'm almost 50 and I squat 500 plus. I do rep work in the 300s on the bench, guys. We're not playing at this age. Overuse injuries are a real thing, number one. So if we're changing movements a little bit here and there, as long as some of our heavy work, our real heavy work or skills stay similar, we're okay, right? And I'm not talking about those of you who are weaker. Look, if you're only benching 200, I'm not talking about you, unless you're a woman. These movement patterns will help with overuse a little bit. But that's lower on the list. You know what matters? The muscular development. Okay? Every bodybuilder will tell you this. Any bodybuilder ever maximally develop a muscle group off of a single version of an exercise? Very rarely, not a champion. They do multiple exercises. They work muscles from different angles because they know historically it works. We know different parts of muscles get worked. Okay? You don't think that matters for getting bigger, even for a strength athlete? It's also been tested in the lab. We know exercise variation. If volume is split across variation, what happens? We get slightly more growth. In other words, 6 sets of an exercise, of a good exercise, versus doing 3 of that exercise and another 3 of another really good exercise. When it's been looked at in the lab, the second one, same amount of volume, usually causes slightly more muscle growth. For the same amount of work, you haven't worked harder. It's still worth a little bit more. Okay, working different angles. So, the same thing, you can look at your benching and go, maybe do an incline, maybe do some floor pressing, maybe rotate your grips. You'll probably get bigger. Your squatting, you can do different stances. You can do different bars, different boxes. You're going to get more potential development if you do that. Same thing with a bicep. You know what? Maybe you should do some of your curls. Now, obviously, a straight bar really is king for biceps in terms of bars, if you're just trying to hit the bicep. But changing things up, doing some dumbbells for that different movement, freer range of motion, throwing an easy bar in, maybe doing some preacher curls, working those different angles. We know you'll get better biceps potentially, right? Working the different angles. You don't think on your big exercises the same thing happens? Maybe work some floor press, some closed grip bench, some ultra wide bench, some incline, some decline. That's only going to make you a better, stronger bencher because you're going to be better at pushing through grooving at different angles. You're going to have more muscular development. Okay? And I say that even with a lot of bench pressers. You should, depending on where you're weakest, doing some rep work will help. If you're really weak right off the chest, doing a little bit of rep work with an ultra wide bench, illegal wide even, will help you. If you suck at lockouts, doing some heavier rep work with closed grip will help you. It's going to develop the other muscles. It's going to help bring up weak links that will improve your weak points. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys and gals next time.